What is up, guys? It's your boy Zach, and welcome back to another And in today's video, we're going to discuss a key detail forgotten by fans. I'm surprised not many people bring it up. What I'm talking about, of course, is Ichigo's severed Bankai chain. But to explain what the chain represents, let's first discuss Ichigo's powers. What are they and how they work? This is important to explain to understand what the chain in his Bankai means. One of my favorite moments in Bleach is when Ichigo goes Bankai for the first time in Soul Society. It had a pretty cool design, and back then I was a big fan of long cloak tropes, heavily influenced by my love for Dante from Devil May Cry 3. When Ichigo activates Bankai, Byakuya notes that this is not how a Bankai should look like. At first, we as viewers didn't take much care for that statement, and we dismissed it as him downplaying Ichigo's powers. But as we later find out in the final arc, that's not in fact his Bankai. And when Ichigo later confronts his inner hollow, White states that he's in fact the real Zangetsu. We also dismiss this as him simply lying, but again, we find out in the final arc that he's telling the truth. Now, why am I bringing these up? Well, it's because there are huge plot details that explain what Ichigo's Bankai chains represent. You see, Ichigo technically doesn't have a Bankai ability, and the Bankai he was using this whole time is not a Bankai, it's a Resurrection. Yes, the Arrancar equivalent to a Bankai. The difference between Bankai and Resurrection is that Bankai grants you unique abilities, but the Resurrection grants you physical strength. Out of all the Bankais we saw in the series, Ichigo is the only one who gained great strengths and speeds, while all the captains grant unique abilities. The only characters in the series that are given great speeds and strengths, just like Ichigo, are none other than the Arrancars. This is something repeatedly stated in the series. Many characters compare Ichigo to an Espada rather than a Shinigami, because, well, for the most part he is. Ichigo's Shinigami powers are more hollow-like than Shinigami. Ichigo this whole time was fighting like a hollow, not as a true Shinigami. His sword is just a mirror of his Shinigami powers. His blade is not real. Ichigo doesn't have a real Asuchi. As we later find out in the final arc, Shinigamis are given blades where they pour their Ryatsu into in order to perform cerebral abilities like Shikai and Bankai. Hell, you can even argue this whole time Ichigo was technically not a Shinigami, cause Zangetsu was giving him part of Hollow Ichigo's powers. Now, what does all of this have to do with his Bankai chain? Well, you see, everything. As stated in the Unmasked Data book, Ichigo's severed Bankai chain is in fact connected to him. When Ichigo is in Shikai form, he draws powers directly from Feng Zangetsu. His powers in Shikai is close to Quincy powers. But when he goes Bankai, he draws powers directly from his hollow powers, aka the real Zangetsu. The chain is connected directly to his hollow side. This is why Ichigo has two different Getsuga Tensho attacks. This is why White was able to take over Ichigo's body every time he goes Bankai. This is a very consistent event that happens in the manga. When Ichigo uses Getsuga Tensho for the first time, he describes it as him pouring down his spirit energy into Zangetsu and finding it back at a maximum state. This is very convenient for fake Zangetsu, as he can mimic the attack of a real Getsuga Tensho. But as White later explains, Ichigo never really learned how to use a Getsuga Tensho until he saw him do it. This is because White's Getsuga is far different than fake Zangetsu. As explained by Ulukiora, White's Getsuga is called Zero Oscuras. It's a zero ability spiders can only use in their release form. And we know that White is a Vasto Lordi Hollow merged with Ichigo's Shinigami powers. It makes sense why he can use Espada abilities considering the Espada are Shinigami fight hollows. And like I said earlier, this also explains why White could take over Ichigo's body so quickly every time he goes Bankai. He is directly connected to White. It makes it easier for him to transform. Plus, this also explains how his holification works. and I did talk about it in details in my holification video. I suggest you watch that after you finish watching this video, because in it I explained another important detail about his Bankai, which ties directly to this subject. And also, the way his severed chains is connected to his body is the same way a soul chain is connected to a soul's body. It's very subtle how Kubo laid so much complex ground to a very small detail. Another minor detail I want to point out is that when Ichigo transformed to Vassalore in his fight with Ulquiorra, we see him call back his sword with his hand. At first I thought it's just some minor cool ability the Hollow has, but looking back at what we said about the chain is connected to his body, it could be because he grabbed the chain and dragged the sword back to his hand. So yeah, this minor detail in Ichigo's Bankai actually has a way bigger role to play than you thought it did. I never thought it was that important either until after the reveals we got in the final arc. If you think about it, Ichigo's Bankai is called Tensa Zangetsu, which translates to Heavenly Chain Cutting the Moon. When I first heard this name, I was confused, but considering all the details laid out in this video, this name is more fitting to the foreshadowings of Ichigo's Bankai. Also, another detail I noticed is that when Ichigo uses his true Bankai, the chain is not severed anymore. In fact, it's connected directly to the sword, which suggests that it's no longer connected to White. That makes sense. It means that Ichigo no longer draws powers directly from White, but from his own power. It explains why he's so strong in the final arc. The attention to detail on this chain is very cool. And again, it's not even explained in the main story. It's something Kubo wants you to notice on your own, which I appreciate a lot about this. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you'd like to see more. Follow me on Twitter if you want to check out my latest news. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace!